Welcome to our latest episode of the Mormon News Roundup on YouTube. Today we're diving into the fascinating and controversial comparison between two towering figures in American history, Donald J. Trump and Joseph Smith. Both men have left an indelible mark on society, and the similarities between their lives and careers are striking and thought-provoking. From accusations of sexual assault and money scams to a penchant for lying and running for political office, Trump and Smith's paths seem eerily parallel. Both cultivated a cult-like following, spread misinformation, and exhibited nepotistic tendencies. Their charisma attracted legions of followers, while their critics were often silenced. Despite their Christian upbringings, both men harbored a relentless thirst for power. Each avoided military service only to later command armies. Racism, failure to pay their debts, and disavowing former members or employees further marred their reputations. Join us today as we explore these uncanny resemblances and delve into the complex legacies of Donald Trump and Joseph Smith. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notifications bell for more intriguing content. Let's get started. Number 15, sexual assault. Donald Trump and Joseph Smith both had multiple accusations of sexual assault in addition to confirmed affairs with multiple women other than their wives, sparking significant controversy and criticism. Joseph Smith's extramarital relationship with Fanny Alger when she was underage has been widely publicized and has impacted his public image. In today's vernacular, it would be considered statutory rape.
Joseph and Emma Smith employed a housemaid, teenager Fanny Alger. The Mormon prophet and the young girl had an affair, and married in secret. After learning about their tryst, Emma confronted Joseph, and had Fanny evicted from their home. By August 1835, word of Joseph's polygamy spreads. His church fired back. It published a denial in the church newspaper. Inasmuch as this church has been reproached with fornication and polygamy, we believe that one man should have one wife. This statement was then canonized in the D&C as Section 101. The church threatened to disfellowship any elder caught in polygamy. In a Q&A, the prophet himself gave a denial. Do Mormons believe in having more wives than one?
Similarly, Trump's affairs were a source of scandal and contributed to the tension and opposition he faced when running for political office. In May of 2023, a jury found Trump liable for sexual abuse and awarded his accuser, columnist E. Jean Carroll, a significant sum.
What does Trump's sexual abuse verdict mean? A jury in New York found that former US President Donald Trump sexually abused the writer E. Jean Carroll in 1996. In a 2019 book, Carroll accused Trump of raping her in the dressing room of a Manhattan department store. The jury didn't find that Trump raped Carroll. It did also find that he defamed her. That's when someone damages someone with a false statement. Trump had written that Carroll's claims were a complete con job and a lie. It doesn't mean that Trump's going to jail. It's a civil trial, which means there's no criminal penalties, but Carroll has been awarded $5 million. Trump wasn't there when the verdict was read out, but he posted on his social media site afterwards that he didn't know Carroll, the verdict was a disgrace, and he called it part of a witch hunt. We don't know yet what this means for Trump's bid to be re-elected as president. He's seen as a frontrunner for the Republican Party nomination. Carroll said afterwards that the victory is for every woman who has suffered.
Number 14, money scams. Donald Trump and Joseph Smith both faced financial scandals and accusations of financial impropriety during their lifetimes. Trump's business ventures have been scrutinized for bankruptcies, fraudulent practices, and misleading investors.
Less a charity, more of a personal piggy bank for Donald Trump and his children. That's the accusation by New York's Attorney General as the Donald J. Trump Foundation agrees to dissolve under court supervision. Following a 21-month investigation, Attorney General Barbara Underwood said,
Our petition detailed a shocking pattern of illegality involving the Trump Foundation, including unlawful coordination with the Trump presidential campaign, repeated and willful self-dealing, and much more. This amounted to the Trump Foundation functioning as little more than a checkbook to serve Mr. Trump's business and political interests.
Among the specific accusations, that $2.8 million donated at a charity fundraiser for military veterans went instead to Trump's presidential campaign. That the foundation paid out $100,000 to settle legal claims against Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort and another $158,000 for claims against another of his golf clubs. Also, that it paid $10,000 for a painting of Trump to hang at yet another resort. In addition to $2.8 million in restitution and penalties, the lawsuit seeks to ban Trump and his children Don Jr., Eric, and Ivanka from leadership roles in any other New York charity. Under the terms of the agreement, Underwood will oversee the distribution of the foundation's remaining funds to ensure they go to legitimate charities. In a June tweet, Donald Trump blamed the suit on sleazy New York Democrats and vowed not to settle it. In their court filings, the Trumps said the case reflected Underwood's pervasive bias against them. The investigation could still result in further penalties against the president and his children, and is likely to play a part in Trump's 2020 re-election campaign.
Similarly, Smith was involved in financial controversies, including the collapse of the Kirtland Safety Society, which led to significant financial losses for many early Mormons.
In July of 1833, Jackson City's non-Mormon population forcibly evicted the majority of the Mormons living there, destroying their property, and in the process killing at least one Mormon, as they sought to evict all of the Latter-day Saints from Jackson City, Missouri. In spite of all these setbacks, by the summer of 1835, there were between 1,500 and 2,000 converts in the Ohio community. In March of 1836, a temple was built in Kirtland, Ohio, and in January of 1837, Smith and his followers formed a company that operated similarly to a bank, calling itself the Kirtland Safety Society. The bank was run by Chowdhury and issued banknotes ostensibly backed by real estate investments. But the bank failed almost immediately. Smith and his supporters found themselves deep in debt, and Smith was charged with fraud. History is awkward.
Number 13, mendacity. Donald Trump and Joseph Smith both have reputations for mendacity, frequently being accused of lying. Trump's presidency was marked by numerous false or misleading statements, earning him widespread criticism for his lack of truthfulness. Similarly, Smith was often accused of deception by critics, particularly regarding his religious claims and personal conduct.
Joseph Smith admitted he lied. At least, that's what these records say. In some type of legal proceeding, an associate of Smith's, Addison Austin, allegedly testified that when he asked Joseph Smith if he could actually see treasure in the earth as they were searching for it, Smith replied, "To be candid, between you and me, I cannot, any more than you or anybody else. But anyway, to get a living."
Donald Trump's biggest falsehood was his election denial, also known as the big lie.
At rallies yesterday in Wisconsin and Michigan, Trump once again claimed the 2020 election had been stolen from him.
The radical left Democrats rigged the presidential election in 2020. Watch the cheating. The radical left Democrats rigged the presidential election in 2020.
But as much as Trump and leading Republicans are trying to whitewash history, it is now abundantly clear that their efforts at election subversion are not limited to the riots of yesteryear. Trump is laying the groundwork for all of this to happen again. In a brand new interview with the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, Trump would not commit to accepting the results of the 2024 election. "If everything's honest," he said, "I'd gladly accept the results. If it's not, you have to fight for the right of the country." Fight for the right of the country. We have already seen what that looks like for Donald Trump.
Number 11, running for president of the United States. Donald Trump and Joseph Smith both ran for president of the United States, aiming to extend their influence and leadership. Trump successfully won the presidency in 2016, becoming the 45th president and significantly impacting American politics.
Donald Trump is running for president not a third time, but a fourth time. Most folks forget his first presidential run back in 2000. After Minnesota Governor Jesse Ventura talked him into it, Trump ran as a candidate for the Reform Party, the same political party that Ross Perot started. Roger Stone even advised him. Trump ran on protectionism, getting rid of the national debt, and universal health care. You heard that right. Trump wanted universal health care. He talked of Oprah Winfrey as his ideal running mate, and even said he'd marry his girlfriend Melania so that she could be First Lady. Ultimately, though, Trump dropped out of the race after he became disillusioned with the Reform Party. In reality, he probably wouldn't have won the election anyway. In the following years, he became a household name, though, as the host of and executive producer of the reality TV show The Apprentice.
You're all fired. All four are fired.
Smith, on the other hand, announced his candidacy in 1844, but was assassinated before he could fully complete his campaign, making his bid one of the most unusual episodes in early American political history.
One of the most radical things Joseph Smith ever did was to run for president of the United States and to be the first one to do so on an anti-slavery platform. After Joseph Smith petitioned every presidential candidate to see if they would help the Latter-day Saints with the violence and the persecution they were facing, and after each one declined to help, Joseph Smith decided to just do it himself by running for president of the United States in 1844. Besides advocating for religious liberty and other things, he campaigned to end slavery by selling public lands and reducing the salary of Congress members from $8 to $2 a day so that the government could purchase the freedom of all enslaved persons. As you might imagine, taking a jab at Congress and advocating for abolition was not a popular position to take in 1844. I mean, the eventual nominees from both main political parties were slave owners from the South. Bringing slavery into a presidential campaign at this moment in history was political death. Because Joseph Smith was assassinated in June of 1844, he never completed his campaign for the presidency, so it's impossible to know what would have happened if he had lived to see Election Day, but one source claimed that Joseph Smith's views on government caught like wildfire, and if he did not get into the presidential chair this election, he would be sure to next time.
Number 10. Donald Trump and Joseph Smith both garnered a cult-like following with fervent supporters who remain loyal despite controversies. Trump's followers are known for their intense dedication, often rallying around his populist message and dismissing criticisms.
74 million people. Are you saying they're all members of a cult?
I am acknowledging 74 million people voted for Donald Trump in the last election, but I would doubt that most of them believe that Donald Trump is an agent of God or has all of the answers. I think many of them who voted for him were already Republican, for example, or they bought into the disinformation campaign against the Democratic Party. But for me, the real sign of a cult member is the inability to see the possibility that the leader could be bad or wrong.
Similarly, Smith's early followers exhibited profound devotion, adhering to his religious teachings and enduring significant hardships under his leadership.
Have you read Sarah Edmondson's book about taking down the Nexium cult? I know I'm supposed to be studying Mormonism right now, but this book has way too many similarities between Keith Raniere, its founder, and Joseph Smith.
Name one.
You read Joseph Smith's biography, No Man Knows My History, right? Pick it up. Every time there's a direct parallel, I'm going to write a post-it note and stick it on the wall. So started in upstate New York.
Okay, before getting involved in spiritual stuff, was involved in fraudulent activities that all fell apart.
He realized he had the power to influence people and gained a small following and a reputation for being special.
Reinvented himself as more of a spiritual leader and wrote a bunch of new spiritual stuff.
Created an organization around personal progress.
Claimed to hold the keys to happiness.
Sent people around the world to spread the teachings with lots of volunteers.
People in their inner circle started to defect and were defamed and harassed.
And as time went on, created a secret society within the group.
Then he began practicing secret polygamy with an interest in underage girls.
Used women as recruitment for more sexual partners.
People started defecting and whistleblowing.
And then press started writing troubling stories, and defectors were attacked and smeared in the press.
Also, law enforcement gets involved.
The leader ended up in prison.
And then many of the women involved continued to believe in him even after he was imprisoned. His leadership ended catastrophically, and yet continues to have followers who believe in him.
Are you seeing this connection?
No, I'm not seeing it.
Oh, it's because this one is true.
Number 9, medical misinformation. Donald Trump and Joseph Smith both spread medical misinformation during their respective eras. Trump promoted various unproven and bizarre ideas about COVID-19 treatments, including the suggestion of injecting disinfectants into the body.
Supposing we hit the body with a tremendous, whether it's ultraviolet or just very powerful light, and I think you said that hasn't been checked, but you're going to test it. And then I said, supposing you brought the light inside the body, which you can do either through the skin or in some other way. And I think you said you're going to test that too. Sounds interesting. Right, and then I see the disinfectant where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? Because you see it gets on the lungs and it does a tremendous number of the lungs. So it'd be interesting to check that. So that you're going to have to use medical doctors with. But it sounds interesting to me.
Similarly, Smith's teachings included the belief that hot drinks were harmful, which has been interpreted as a prohibition against coffee, tea, despite the lack of medical evidence to support the claim.
1833, Kirtland, Ohio, that's where the Mormons' main home base was. It wasn't just religion that was spreading like wildfire. It was also the temperance movement was kicking off, criticizing alcohol and its negative effects, trying to get it banned. And people were into it. It wasn't just Mormons. It was Robert Owen and his utopian commune in New Harmony, Indiana. It was a book called The Simplicity of Health. It was an article from the Philadelphia Journal of Health. And doctors back then that didn't know what they were doing, and people would just always be adding things that should be banned, like ban alcohol, yes, but also hot soups. Hot soups will probably be the downfall of America. We should ban that too, right? So this was like a general popular opinion in Kirtland around that time that it is fucked up to get fucked up, even if it's chicken noodle.
Number 8, nepotism. Donald Trump and Joseph Smith both utilized nepotism to consolidate their power and influence. Trump frequently involved family members in his business ventures and political administration, appointing them to key advisory roles.
I like nepotism. I think, a lot of people say, oh, nepotism. So usually these are people without children. But I like nepotism. And I'll tell you what happened is, and one of the reasons I as the expression goes, canned Carolyn, Ivanka went on, and she couldn't have when we first started The Apprentice because she was going to the Wharton School of Finance. She had all A's. She was a great student and everything else. But it's hard to say she's my advisor and she's not even in the business yet, right? So now she's been in the business for a year and a half and she's doing unbelievably well. And she went on The Apprentice and she did phenomenally, as you know. And the ratings were very good and everything was very good. And I said, well, this is a good time for me to put Ivanka in to replace Carolyn. And she's beautiful and she's smart.
Similarly, Smith promoted family members into sacred priesthood offices within the Mormon Church, ensuring his family's central role in the religious hierarchy. Number 7, silencing critics and criticisms of the free press. Donald Trump and Joseph Smith both employed tactics to silence critics and displayed skepticism toward a free press. Trump often attacked and undermined journalists and media outlets that criticized him, labeling them as fake news and seeking to delegitimize their reporting.
Look, between you people, don't talk to me that way. You're just a lightweight. Don't talk to me that way. I'm the president of the United States. Don't ever talk to the president that way. Go ahead, take the. Well, I'll give you voters. I will give you voter suppression. You just have to sit down, please. Sit down. I didn't call you. Okay, question? Yeah, go ahead. Sure. She's shocked that I picked her. No. She's like in a state of shock.
I'm not thinking, Mr.
That's
President.
okay. I know you're not thinking. You never do.
I'm sorry?
No, go ahead. How many cases were in the United States when I did my ban? How many people had died in the United States?
So do you acknowledge that you didn't think
Keep your voice down, please. Keep your voice down.
Do you want him to rein in Robert Mueller?
What a stupid question that is. What a stupid question. But I watch you a lot. You ask a lot of stupid questions.
You didn't let me ask my question.
You've been asking a question for 10 minutes. So please sit down.
The argument is that you bought yourself some time and you didn't use it to prepare hospitals. You didn't use it to ramp up testing. Right now, nearly 20 million people
disgraceful.
Are unemployed.
It's so disgraceful the way you say that. Look. You know you're a fake. You know that your whole network, the way you cover it, is fake. And most of you, and not all of you, but the people are wise to you. That's why you have a lower approval rating than you've ever had before, times probably 3.
Similarly, Smith and early Mormon leaders were known to suppress dissent and criticism within their community, sometimes resorting to excommunication or other forms of social or physical pressure to maintain control over the narrative within the church and the community.
Only one edition was ever published, but it was explosive. On June 7, 1844, Law published affidavits that Smith had, quote, authorized certain men to have more wives than one at a time. The paper stated that while the publishers of the paper did continue to believe in, quote, the religion of the Latter-day Saints as originally taught by Joseph Smith, that a schism had emerged over the many of the new teachings, and that, quote, many items of doctrine as now taught, some of which, however, are taught secretly and denied openly, further stating that, quote, false and damnable doctrines into the church, such as the plurality of gods above God in this universe, and the liability to fall with his creations, the plurality of wives for time and eternity, the doctrine of unconditional sealing up eternal lives against all crimes except that of shedding innocent blood. The following day, Smith had the printing press destroyed. History is awkward.
Number 6, a thirst for power. Both Donald Trump and Joseph Smith exhibited a strong thirst for power during their lifetimes. Trump's political career and leadership style demonstrated a desire for control and influence, often employing aggressive tactics to assert authority and pursue his agenda.
This is a tough business to run for president.
I know you're a tough guy, Jeb.
And we need to have a leader that is principled. You're never going to be president of the United States by insulting your way to the presidency.
Let's see, I'm at 42 and you're at 3, so
Doesn't matter.
far I'm doing better.
Doesn't matter.
So far I'm doing better. You know, you started off over here, Jeb. You're moving over further and further. Pretty soon you're going to be off the end.
Similarly, Joseph Smith's leadership of the early Mormon Church was marked by a determined pursuit of religious and political authority, seeking to establish and expand his influence over his followers within the broader society.
George Davis was an attorney and the mayor of Alton, Illinois, in 1844. His account of Mormon prophet Joseph Smith's political ambitions and Smith being crowned king by the Mormon Council of 50 matches the testimonies of members of the Council of 50. After the death of Joseph Smith, Davis recorded, "The great aim of Joseph Smith was evidently to clothe himself with the most unlimited power, civil, military, and ecclesiastical, over all who became members of his society." He stated that God had revealed to him that the Indians and Latter-day Saints, under Joseph as their king and ruler, were to conquer the Gentiles, and that their subjection to this authority was to be obtained by the sword. From this revelation, he enforced upon them that it was necessary he should be crowned king, and was accordingly crowned king under God, over the immediate house of Israel. This ceremony was performed in 1844 by a council of 50, that the whole earth was to become under subjection to him. Accordingly, Joseph swore them all to present secrecy, under the penalty of death.
Number 5, the avoidance of military service followed by commanding armies. Both Donald Trump and Joseph Smith initially avoided military service in their younger years, but later assumed roles including leadership or influence over armed groups. Trump received deferments during the Vietnam War and did not serve in the military. Smith, on the other hand, while not involved in traditional military service, commanded the Nauvoo Legion, a militia in Illinois in the 1840s, which played a significant role in defending the early Mormon settlement and asserting local authority.
상상할 수 있었겠습니까? 트럼프 대통령은
Number 4, accusations of racism. Trump faced criticisms for statements and policies perceived as racially insensitive or discriminatory during his presidency.
Donald Trump actually said this.
These lights are so bright in my eyes that I can't see too many people out there. But I can only see the black ones. I can't see any white ones, you see? That's how far I've come. That's how far I've come. That's a long way, isn't it? The mugshot, we've all seen the mugshot. And you know who embraced it more than anybody else? The black population. It's incredible. You see black people walking around with my mugshot. You know, they do shirts and they sell them for $19 a piece. It's pretty amazing.
As for that mugshot, come on now. Does he think he's Biggie Smalls? America, please share it with your Trump-loving friends. Have them understand why what we just heard is so unbelievably racist, but also problematic for a democracy. That man should never be president of the United States again.
Joseph Smith and early Mormonism have historical controversies regarding race, including initial restrictions on priesthood ordination for individuals of African descent that lasted until 1978.
In Joseph Smith's day, they were all racist. They all owned slaves. They all owned all this stuff. Like, it's incredibly suffocating and very narcissistic to make excuses for a racist. The louder we are about racism and the clear facts that racism is in this book, the Book of Mormon, that the Book of Mormon is racist, the louder we are about that, the more change we're going to see.
Number 3, bankruptcies. Both Donald Trump and Joseph Smith faced financial difficulties that included bankruptcy. Trump's business empire has experienced multiple bankruptcies and financial restructurings over the years, which have been subjects of public scrutiny.
Trump invested significant funds into the Atlantic City gambling business. He bought and developed real estate for casinos, including Trump Plaza, Trump Taj Mahal, and Trump Marina. In the end, they also met financial difficulties. First, the joint debt he acquired when building and operating real estate. Besides that, the real estate market had become saturated. The Trump magazine issued in 2007. The magazine was intended to promote Trump's brand and luxury style. Its motto was to profit from advertisement of yachts and other expensive items. The project did not survive the financial crisis, and by 2009 it ceased to exist. The economic recession had noticeably dented luxurious lifestyle, depleting ad revenue and consumer interest in quality products and entertainment.
Joseph Smith was involved in various financial ventures, including the collapse of the Kirtland Safety Society, a financial institution he established that failed, which contributed to the economic challenges for early Latter-day Saints.
Joseph Smith and several other Latter-day Saints tried to take advantage of a new bankruptcy act, which was set up to help relieve debtors from their nationwide depression. But their application was denied due to false claims of fraud, and they're owing the federal government for the steamboat. It would be another decade well after Joseph's death before the debt was completely settled, but a federal judge found no evidence of fraud on Joseph's part. Like others during the hard economic times of the early 1840s, Joseph was within his legal rights and his duties to both his partners and the creditor to seek debt relief through the newly enacted Federal Bankruptcy Act. His debts had accrued largely because of circumstances beyond his control. Joseph did his best to legally pay off all debts instead of running away.
Number 2, megalomania. Both Donald Trump and Joseph Smith have been characterized by some critics as exhibiting traits of narcissism, demonstrating an exaggerated sense of their own importance and power. Donald Trump's bold assertions of his abilities and achievements, along with his grandiose style of leadership, often lead to accusations of megalomania during his presidency.
He is a consummate narcissist, and he constantly engages in reckless conduct that puts his political followers at risk and the conservative and Republican agenda at risk.
Blistering words there from Bill Barr.
Similarly, Joseph Smith's vision of himself as a prophet and leader of a religious movement, coupled with claims of divine authority and revelations, has been interpreted by some as indicative of egomaniacal tendencies. And the number one similarity between Donald Trump and Joseph Smith is that they both had troubling relationships with their wives. Trump's marriages have been widely covered in the media with controversies and allegations of infidelity. Which included marrying women who were already married to other men, has been a source of significant controversy and criticism regarding his marital relationships within the context of early Mormon history.
On May 28th of 1843, Hiram Smith sealed Joseph Smith to his legal wife, Emma Hale Smith. If Mormon historian Todd Compton's dates are correct, then this would make Emma roughly the 26th wife sealed to the prophet. And it wasn't until 6 weeks and a few more wives later that Hiram tried to convince Emma of the correctness of the spiritual wifeism.
And that's a wrap, folks. There's many more parallels that we don't have time to go through in this video, such as their Christian upbringing, thinking that they're above the law, extensive legal troubles, court convictions, a penchant for sexism, disavowing former members or employers, failure to pay for contractors or properties, their charismatic personalities, and much, much more. If you see any other parallels between these two figures, let me know in the comments. And just to nip it in the bud for the whataboutism chat pros, I simply don't see as many parallels between Joseph Smith and Joe Biden. As we've explored today, the parallels between Donald Trump and Joseph Smith are numerous and striking. Both figures have undeniably shaped their respective eras with their actions and personalities, leaving behind legacies that are as controversial as they are impactful. From their battles with legal troubles and accusations of misconduct to their charisma and ability to garner a devoted following, Donald Trump and Joseph Smith's lives offer a fascinating study of the dynamics of power, influence, and public perception. Whether it's through their political ambitions, their controversial decisions, or their complex relationships with those around them, both men have become enduring symbols of both admiration and controversy. As we reflect on their stories, it's essential to consider the broader implications of their actions and the ways in which they navigated their turbulent paths. The comparison not only sheds light on their individual characters, but also prompts us to think critically about the nature of leadership, the role of charisma, and the impact of controversy in shaping history. Thanks so much for joining us on this deep dive into the lives of Donald Trump and Joseph Smith. If you found this episode thought-provoking, please like, subscribe, and hit the notifications bell for more content. And if you love the Mormon News Roundup as much as I do, please consider making a donation through our Patreon site. I want to give a shout out to Weird Alma on Bandcamp.com for this episode's music. Always think celestial, and remember, no one hallowed hand can stop this podcast from progressing.
When it comes to nicknames of the church, such as LDS Church, the Mormon Church, to remove the Lord's name from the Lord's church is a major victory for Satan.
Satan.